Welcome to Politics Done Right at the Bridge Alliance. My name is Egberto Willies, the host. This is one of the preeminent conferences in this country. 90 different groups are here to work together on a transpartisan, a nonpartisan, however you want to say, on issues, not on anything specific to the right or the left. And I tell you what, if you're going to see a whole lot of interviews that we did, and you're going to find that we can actually work together. It's amazing. If you drop your ideology, we can work together. And you know, I'm honored to be today with Steve Lawler.
Yes, sir.
I said Crawler. Can you believe that? Steve Lawler.
Yes,
How you doing, Steve?
Great to be here.
Steve, you know, yesterday we sat at the bar, and I can't tell you how impressed I was. I think you operate out of, or you operated out of Ferguson, Missouri?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And what I found, it's like, explain, what are you doing out there?
Yeah, so we have been really hyper-local. So the work we've done has been connected to the kinds of ways people are experiencing challenges. And so that's had everything to do from housing issues to policing issues to opportunities for education, for employment, food desert challenges. So we've created a platform, a community engagement platform called The Vine, and we partner with different organizations around some specific things. So anything to do with kids, arts, and food. We're very engaged in those particular areas. And then we're also working with communities, faith communities in the metropolitan St. Louis area on a project that we call the Rooted City Project, which is how can these congregations that are in various neighborhoods add to their portfolio of ways of being in the community to respond to the community and support and activate people's interests, whether it's in computer classes or caring for the elderly or food, other kinds of things. So that kind of provides a root in the community for the community's stability and growth.
Now, let's back up a bit. Is all the things that you're doing in Ferguson now, is this pre-Michael Brown or post-Michael Brown?
So we started doing the work in 2006. So it's a lot of it predates Michael Brown. We did asset mapping in the community. We heard the community talk about what it cared about, what it wished was there, what it wondered about bringing into the mix, and then things accelerated after Michael Brown was slain. So a couple of things happened. One of the things that happened was a number of things that were below the surface came to the surface, so it was pretty clear there was additional work to do. And then the other thing is that some resources came into the community because those were identified as challenges. So we were able to work with those resources and layer them into this platform that we already had activated. And it's a collaboration. It's a bunch of different organizations working on this to respond then to these things. So I would say we were on a glide path before, and then once Michael Brown was slain, we really accelerated.
Okay, now you're here at the Bridge Alliance, and you work on super local issues.
Yes.
The Bridge Alliance, if you take a mapping of the organizations that are here, I would say, and I haven't taken it specifically, but I would say it sort of have a national perspective. I am in 100% agreement with you that everything has to start on the local level, and if you can build localities or you can build local structures, that can all expand or mushroom into a more national thing when you're used as an example throughout the country. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what's changed is that there may have been a time, and if we think about our kind of two-party system, where the franchises controlled everything. And so if you wanted to make your way into the political life, you had to identify within a particular religious party.
Right.
No, a political party.
Right.
And then you had to layer up with those kinds of platform things that party included. I think what's happened is that there's enough things, call it the appification of our culture, that those parties don't really support some of the fluidity and ingenuity that people are expressing. So rather than, people talk about inside out or flipping the model or whatever, I think a lot of this hyper-local work does scale up nationally, and things that people are doing nationally can be connected, but the cost of admission for people that are doing local work is no longer adherence to the party platform or to the party structure. They're willing to play along with the party if the party can support their action, but they're really focused on things that are important to them, that are sort of, as this conference really reminds us, are more connected to democracy than they are to our political parties.
And I think that is so important because once we isolate once we make that partition, what you find again is that the parties and that sort of a disrupted structure loses its power. Yes. And I think in a lot of work that you're doing, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think that's a good thing. Your thoughts?
Oh, yes, I think so. We've seen some of the historic and kind of legacy organizations in our community that would have been turned to in the past to be involved in, whether it's issues about policing or about racialized violence or, job creation, a variety of things. And those sort of legacy organizations, whether it's the United Way or the Urban League or others, that people say, well, they're going to take care of that. They work on that.
Right.
And what's happened is, again, they don't have quite the flexibility to respond on some of the levels that we can. And so what people are seeing from us is, and we're not alone, there are lots of these organizations around the world and around the country that we're able to find these kind of custom and very particular solutions that then really are part of that tipping point, part of that change.
Right.
And then those organizations sometimes adopt them, and that's great. That means they're available for more people.
The real laboratory, right?
Yes.
Laboratory of not having to worry about ideologies. Wow, it actually works. I can see what works and then say, hey guys, do you want to adopt this on your platform? Now, what have you learned? I know everybody who comes to the Bridge Alliance want to learn something. We want to see what people are doing all over. And in seeing what people are doing all over, we can take it back to wherever we are, whatever organizations we're a part of, and institute that knowledge into making things better. What have you found instructive here at the Bridge Alliance?
Well, I want to highlight three things that happened today that I think were extraordinary and wonderful. One was this framing of the day with Hamilton. There's a phrase from the newly minted Catholic saint, John Henry Cardinal Newman, and he said, conversion happens in the imagination.
Okay.
So oftentimes we take on that horizon when we can imagine it, and often art, literature, music, things that happen in that imaginative space bring us there. So I really appreciated that, opening it up to get people to be aspirational, to be inspired, to be ready to do this work. I also appreciated how specifically people could speak to what their organization did. And so if you're going to build collaborations, you got to know who's on the other side of the table or around the table or whatever that piece of it is. And I like that the Bridge Alliance has done a lot of work of mapping, and so it gives people an opportunity to understand who else is out there and how are they playing and how can they work together. There was a particular conversation today about how do these things become movements, and so that's the third thing. And I think it was 3.5%.
3.5%.
11
it's
million
amazing.
people.
Yes.
Yeah, at 3.5%. So this kind of thing, is easy to see how that 3.5% can happen, because the frustration that people feel across the political perspective, I can't imagine that it's been like this before, and it certainly is catalytic. And so when I talk to people who are very conservative, I talk to people that are very progressive, I talk to people in the middle, this common sense is this isn't working.
Right.
This isn't working.
Well, it's not possible that it could have been like this before because there was no internet. So California knows instantaneously what New York is doing.
Good
that
point.
didn't happen during the Civil War or before.
Yeah.
So things had to, so things progress that much faster now. So, I think that's present what you just, said. You couldn't imagine that it could be that way before. You're absolutely right about that. Now, that said, when you go home, what is the first thing you're going to, usually when I go home from one of these conferences, I say, I first breathe, and then I say, well, you know what? This is the first thing that I'm going to do. What's the first thing that you're going to do afterwards?
So there are a couple of people that I work with in the community, and I'll get to see them on Saturday, and there's a piece of this work that has to do with conversation that I think we've been close to. We've recognized that in the conflict that's been Ferguson, people will come together for food, and they'll come together to work on projects together. And so I learned some tools at this conference that I want to talk to people about, and also resources. Some people, we can go to the websites, we can reach out, emails, business cards, things like that, and say, okay, can we layer into these community meals that we do? And we do art at these things, so there's maker space. People get to, interact with one another around painting together or building together or other things. Can we now start to layer into that a bit more of the conversation so we can take that to the next level for the community?
A concrete action. Tell us again what your position in Ferguson. I know
Sure.
you're.
So I'm an Episcopal priest, and I'm the priest at the Episcopal Church there. And then I'm the co-founder of what's called the Vine, which is part of this platform that we've built. And I'm a senior fellow with the Center for Social Empowerment with Dr. Willis Johnson.
Steve, it's been a pleasure having you here, and it's my pleasure to meet you.
Thank
It was
you.
wonderful having those
Really
talks.
appreciate your work.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you so kindly.